if that she's missing. But I did hit that button, everybody, just so you know. But again, we want everyone to enjoy, be here, be present. And friends, I am so excited. Welcome, everybody. Anyone who's never jumped on before, this is the Positive Growth Lounge teacher membership. Though, if you're here as a parent, please know that you are most welcome. And please know that the overlap between education and parenting is insanely, I think, synchronous, if you think about it that way. But anyways, we
Well,
are a
because
group.
parents are also educating their children too, right? It's just a different kind of form of education, but we're all about educating kids and helping them grow into healthy, happy humans, right?
Oh my gosh, well said. And that's why, oh my gosh, guys, I'm so excited. So Trish and I were introduced to each other through a mutual friend who actually isn't in like the education space at all. Tia,
Right.
tips from Tia, but she said, I know this person. I think you two are going to hit it off. And we did, and we have very similar missions. So I was immediately like, hey, Trish, I know we just met, but can I ask you a favor? Can you pour into the Positive Growth Lounge group? And can we just invite anybody who wants to come to learn? So I'd love to introduce really quick you, Trish, and then I'd love for you to give kind of your full background and bio. But if you guys didn't know, she's not only a former educator, but she's an author, a speaker, a coach, has a great book out, Brain Stages. If you go to her site,
Actually, I have my beat up copy right here because I give
yes.
master classes and stuff on it all the time. It's a grade by grade guide through elementary school. I've taught other grades too, but it's like, this is kind of where your kid's brain is in kindergarten. And this is, they're all different. This is kind of the social stuff they're going through. And these are the academic things they're supposed to know. And here are a whole bunch of fun games to play to make sure they get all those needs met. So there's that from kindergarten all the way through fifth grade, which is great for figuring out where the learning gaps are, right?
Absolutely.
So eventually I'd like to do one for middle school and high school, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
It's a lot of that's a lot of research and a lot of writing, Trish, then.
Yeah,
So
but I'm a writer. That part, I coach other writers. That part's really fun. I don't mind with writing.
I love it. I love it. Well then, Trish, then I want to go right into you. And just so everybody knows, Trish and I both agreed that we didn't want this to just be a lecture. We wanted you guys to jump in, ask questions. Obviously, Trish is going to be sharing some of her strategies and tips and stories. But by all means, Trish and I both feel if you want to jump in and ask a question, if you want to scroll down to the bottom and hit the old like hand raise button, if you can get to that, totally cool. But again, we want to keep it comfortable and casual so that your questions get answered. If you have any feedback, if you have any personal stories that you felt resonate with that, we want you to feel that you can share too. So just so we set the parameters so everybody knows where we're at, so that we can feel comfortable and learn and grow together. So Trish, without further ado, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to everybody, give us a little background. And I know you're like Johnny Cash. You've been everywhere, man. But tell us.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into all the details. Basically, what happened was I raised a couple of kids who had challenges, and I had been teaching for years. I had already taught several grades from preschool through sixth grade, all the grades. And my own kids had issues. They had challenges. So attention issues, auditory processing problems. Basically, they were crashing and burning in school. So here I was doing all this stuff for other people's kids, and my own kids were not doing well. And I thought, this isn't okay with me. I've got to figure this out. So I just went on this quest to be able to help them. I talked to experts. I read all this research. Anyway, ton of trial and error. Some things didn't work very well. They were really good sports. But some things worked great. And so basically, around the same time, I ended up in this fourth grade class. And I don't know if you've ever had like one of those classes from hell, but they were just like a super difficult class. Yeah. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get through this year. Forget that. I don't know how I'm going to get through this week. I mean, I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but I was just, so I thought, this stuff is working for my kids who have all these issues. I'm going to start trying them out and see what happens. And so basically, and obviously I didn't try the stuff with them that didn't work with my kids. And basically the first thing that happened is one of the kids in my classroom who had ADHD. I don't really like that designation because both my kids have attention issues and I feel like their brains just work differently. So when I could kind of figure out how to work with them and what that looked like and how to bring out the best in them, they just took off academically. They ended up doing really well, even though they were, crashing and burning to begin with. I had one kid who was wetting her pants every day because she was, had anxiety and, so I just had to figure this out. So I started doing some of the things with my kids in my class that I was doing with my children at home. And the first thing was to prepare their brains for learning. In fact, I just gave a TED talk on, or TEDx Wilmington, on 5 practices we can do in the classroom to restore joy in education. And this is what these practices did for me. I went from, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this day, this week, this year, to I get to go to work today. Hey, I can't believe they're paying me for this. I mean, I hadn't felt like that since I had first started teaching. When I first started teaching, I thought, I'm bringing in my guitar, my rhythm instruments. I'm just having a ball here teaching kids. And then things kept changing along the way and the behavior kept, you know, getting more and more challenging. And I was just having a really tough time. So the first thing I did with my own kids is I helped them prepare their brains for learning. And so we did 10 minutes of exercise in the morning. And why 10 minutes? Because that's all the time I thought I had. It turns out, though, a couple of researchers figured out in Canada that the least amount of exercise we can do and get all the brain benefits, the neural pathways working, the chemicals all in gear is 10 minutes of cardio exercise. But with that caveat, some teachers still tell me, I don't have time to do 10 minutes of exercise in the morning. First of all, I will tell you it saves a lot of time. But even if like Phil has high school kids, he may not want to spend 10 minutes doing exercise in his classroom. And his high school kids may be like, what? But if you can get them to do a little something, some kind of funny game where they're moving or whatever, and they do it for 2 minutes, it still gets the brain chemicals working so they can think better. The other thing we did is every time the kids would come in the classroom, we'd play a little brain game. You want to play a little brain game? Okay, so this is called Add a Move. This is my favorite one because it's the most versatile. You can do it with little kids or older kids. They just get trickier. So I'll make a move. You're going to make the same move, and then I'm going to choose one of you, and we're just going to keep adding on moves. But I will warn you that the older kids, like Phil's kids, they'll do like, and that'll be one move. And you'll be like, I don't remember how to, but when we mess up, they love it. So, there are no winners or losers. And basically it takes about 90 seconds to work through the cortisol in our brains. And kids come into the classroom from all kinds of stuff, whether they're little bitties or high school kids. So what would happen was not only were these little games a trigger for them to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to work now, but whatever had been bothering them, playing a game to distract them and kind of replace that cortisol with some dopamine actually got them into learning. And I didn't know all the science about it yet because some of the science we didn't even know yet when I first started doing this stuff. All I knew is that my kids were so much easier to teach once we played one of these little games. So I'm going to make a move and you're all going to do it too. So everybody make a move. And Joe and Elliot, if you're in a position that you can shake out your hands, do that. And then we're going to add a move. Who would like to add the next move?
Oh, I'm in. Oh, go ahead, Rosalie. Sorry.
Rosalie, add a move. Okay, so shake out your hands and remember we're adding a move, so we're going to repeat the sequence over and over. It's great for short-term memory too. Caitlin, you want to do the next one?
Sure. Like,
okay, so we're going to shake out our hands and smile and peace out. Nice. You want to do the next one, Phil?
Yes, this is getting weirder and weirder, and I'm into it. All right. I'm going to do the wave across.
Okay, so shake it out, smile, peace, and
I just hope Joe is in some weird public place right now doing this. That's the
right.
thing.
Right? That's funny. Okay, so, but you get the idea and you can keep, oh, Elliot says he's driving. But my move would be 2 snaps, left hand, then right hand. Oh, let's do that. So shake it out, smile,
I love you, Elliot.
wave, right hand, left hand. Okay. And the kids love this. And here's the beauty. So after you've doing, well, I'll get to that in a second. So the other thing is if you at all possible can make it possible for them to drink water, most of our kids, they come to school and they're dehydrated. They've had coffee in the morning, or they've had, you know, some kind of sugary juice or something, which is not good for our brains at all. But right, hydration is important. So I know I have my water here too. Oh, and mine's pink anyway. But the point is that if we can get them hydrated, at first they're going to the bathroom a lot and you think, oh my gosh, what have I done? But then after a while, you kind of talk about it and set up a sequence and kind of a routine. You do some problem solving with your class and figure it out. And you'd be amazed because they're part of it. And when they're part of the solution, the behavior is just so much better.
Now, Trish, I know
So
that we've talked and you said like that you have strategies for your students, but that we as adults can also adopt them. Would you agree with these things as well? Like we can take
yes.
our own
So
advice?
when we prepare our own brains for teaching or for being with our kids, whatever we're doing, when we're doing these things with our kids, the same thing is happening to our brains too, right?
Mm.
And a lot of times we can't do this for ourselves. I know I have this little mini workout I'm supposed to do in the mornings. It's a long story. I won't bore you with the details. I'm rehabbing an ACL injury from a skiing accident. So, but the point is I have this goal. I'm going to do this mini workout in the morning. When I do stuff with kids, I don't have to do that and struggle with it and get, you know, because we'll do things with our kids that we wouldn't necessarily do for ourselves, if that makes sense, which, you know, sad but true. So the bottom line is if we can do these things with our kids and be a good example, like drinking our own water and, you know, that kind of thing, and working out with the kids, which is why you want to make it something super simple, especially if you're not a person who loves to work out or whatever. You know, just some kind of movement. When we do it with them, it improves all that stuff for us too. So it prepares our brains as well. We're a lot more awake and alert and quick thinking.
I love it. And Rosalie has her hand up. What's up, Rosalie?
Yeah, no, I was just saying that it allows us to be present because as a teacher, my brain doesn't stop. I'm thinking about like, what am I doing next? You're playing with your pencil. Like our brains are just, it's like madness. So when you're playing that little game, you're just like having fun and you're just present and it's beautiful. I love it. I wrote it down.
Well, and here's the thing too, Rosalie, is that when we're doing these things with our kids and we're learning to be more present,
Mhm.
guess what's happening with them? They're learning to be more present too. And they're learning to be in the room instead of worrying about what they're going to do later, what they might do at recess, or what somebody said to them when they were, you know, on the last break, or whatever happened, it helps them to be in the room. So which is huge.
Yeah.
One
So
thing,
I'm brainstorming how to do this in high school because I don't know if they'd follow me with the moves, but there's got to be a way to do some kind of
After
like
you do it the first time, Phil, and they think it's silly and weird, and some participate and some don't, but they start laughing
Mm.
and it starts being fun, then you'll be surprised. Just their moves will get really tricky.
Yeah.
You know, they'll get really silly and tricky, and so you may have to set some boundaries ahead of time.
And I do think too, they're good with when you tell them why we're doing it, like the science behind it. Like the reason we're
Yes.
doing this isn't to make ourselves look silly, though we might. It's literally we're just trying to prep our brains flush the cortisol a little bit, like get present. And that means getting a little weird together and moving. And if we do this every day, it'll be normal and we'll have fun with it. So yeah, I agree with you. They would probably jump on.
And the thing is too, is at first they feel a little weird. What happens is after you've done it a couple times, you have kids start it, students start it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, who's going to start this today? Who has a move? They walk in the room. Okay, who has a move?
Mm.
And you will see that they'll start outside of class. They'll be like coming up with moves and stuff.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And Caitlin, I'm sorry I cut you off on accident there.
No, that's okay. Doing this kind of made me reflect on like some things I'm doing in my classroom. For those that don't know me, I'm a special ed teacher. I have 6th or 8th grade kids with emotional and behavioral disabilities. And the last couple school years, my staff and I have really been transparent on taking the time to reflect when we need a moment to kind of regulate how we're feeling. And this past school year, I had a student say, I don't see that for my adults at home.
Aww.
And I love that when you say, Mrs. Gunter needs a minute, or I'm going to go do this and while you guys finish this, and they know why I'm, leaving the room for a couple minutes while they're doing their independent work or whatever. And so like when that kid told me that, I'm like, yeah, you might not see these healthy.
Do you give them that space as well, Caitlin?
Mm-hmm. Yes. We have a whole structure of how they can ask for breaks. Sometimes they're forced breaks from staff, but they really do a good job utilizing them.
That's great. And I will tell you, playing little games like this helps kids relax. I was just working with a whole, it's a foster home, but they don't call it that anymore. It's a short-term residential therapeutic program.
Mm-hmm.
and they have 8 kids, and I talked to their staff. They get together really late. And I talked to them last night and was giving them some tips on, I don't know if you've seen this book before. It's 101 Brain Breaks.
I have that in my classroom.
You
we
do.
Did it last school year at the beginning of the year. Yep.
So these are really,
through.
Right. Well, and Adam Move is not in here because I made it up, but, and I like that one because it changes all the time. But they have a lot of really good ideas in here in the 101 Brain Breaks and brain-based emotional activities. And they have different ways of breathing and that kind of thing. And if you have some of the kids in your classroom who have the ability to read something like this, it's a great motivator for them to choose whatever you're going to play that day.
Yeah.
And kids who get like, what happens when they get triggered and their emotions, their limbic system just takes off. And if you allow them to play a game like this, go, okay, everybody, we need a break. And just everybody does a break because then it's not personal to that child and they just play this game, then it's really helpful in just kind of calming everybody down too. It's really good for transitions too, if you're going from one subject to another or whatever. So that's the first thing. How are we doing on time?
We're good. We still got about 18 official minutes.
Okay, great. So that's the first part is to prepare kids' brains for learning. And so water, a little exercise, 2 minutes to 10 minutes, whatever you can afford or work out, and playing one of these little games. Breathing is great too. I mean, there are a whole bunch of different things you can do, but I've found in my humble experience that playing little games like this has the best bang for the buck. I mean, it just has the most effect. But, a lot of people are really into doing mindfulness and that kind of thing too. And that's great too. But some kids, especially if they get triggered easily, it's hard for them to get out of their own heads. Whereas playing a little game like this is almost meditative for them. And it helps to get them out of their own heads.
Yeah, Trish, I can speak to that. I didn't start breathing and finding it valuable until I was 39 years old. Before that, I would have I would have rather laughed and been silly and played a game instead of slow down. But now I see the value. So I could see how a lot of students wouldn't necessarily be ready for that yet. But it's a beautiful skill, an important skill for kids to learn too. I love that.
Right. So if you're a teacher and you're really good at teaching, you know, breathing and mindfulness and all that stuff, go for it. I mean, these are just things that are helpful. I'm not saying, you know, there's no one way to do this teaching thing, whether you're a parent or a teacher.
Mhm.
So the first thing is to prepare kids' brains using those three things. The next thing is to give kids purpose in their learning. I had to do this with my children at home because they were like, I don't want to do this homework. I'm never going to need this. What am I going to use it for? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I had this all the time, and just when you have kids who have attention issues anyway, it's really hard to get them to do homework. And they were really bright. And so just anyway, so I started doing that with my kids in my classroom. Okay, we're going to learn this today in math. How do you think we might use that in our lives? Like, what could we do with this? What is the purpose of learning this? What's the point? And, you know, if they couldn't think of anything, I would always have something ready ahead of time to be able to give them a couple of ideas. And then they would bounce off and they would think of things I never would have thought of. And I'd be scribbling them all up, but usually if it was like a unit or whatever, I would scribble it on a piece of paper, you know, just brainstorming. And then after we would brainstorm whatever we were going to, like, the purpose for what they were going to do, I'd have them choose, okay, look at this list and choose a way that you might be able to use this skill, whatever it is in your life. And Caitlin, with you being in special ed, you can have your staff help them do this. And if they don't know, oh, here's another really cool thing. So you know how people are freaking out over chat GBT? We can have them go to chat GBT if they can't figure out how they might use it, and chat GBT will give them a whole bunch of ways it'll work. You know, they'll be able to use that thing, and they love that. They get to use artificial intelligence to tell them why the heck they need to know this thing.
I like
And
that.
then, and if you're doing math and science like Phil is, just so here's an example. I have a little roommate in my house. She's not little. She's almost 24. Sorry, I'm just old, so everyone younger looks little to me. But she lives with us because my husband and I live in our house 6 months of the year. We go back and forth. It's a long story. But the point is that she's here when we're not here and when we are here. And she is a scientist for a pharmaceutical lab. And in a million years, she did not think she would be a scientist. It never occurred to her. She ended up getting her degree in biology and doing an internship at this lab that we have here in Bend, Oregon. And she loved it. She was just like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I am loving this. And where she's working at the company she works for, they have a really good company culture. But the point is, she didn't know she was going to be into math and science and end up a scientist. She thought she was going to be a teacher. She loves what she does. She gets paid pretty well. She has great benefits. And here's another one, another friend of mine, he didn't know what he was going to do for a living, and he runs a factory and he creates sustainable products like fabrics out of hemp and spoons for frozen yogurt and ice cream that disintegrate or whatever. You can use them, you throw them away, they disintegrate. They're designed that way on purpose, and they're really cool. But the point is he never thought he would be inventing things. The point is when we're going to school, we don't know what our future is going to be. We don't know what skills we're going to need, and how exciting to learn how things work in science and math, because our whole world is math, right? I mean, whether it's in nature, whether it's something we build, there's math in everything. So every little thing we learn in math or science is just learning another little piece of the puzzle to the universe that we live in, right? And when we explain it to kids like that, they're like, oh, okay, and it helps you with problem solving skills. Even if you're not solving problems with, you know, chemicals and numbers or whatever, it gives you those kind of logical skills to be able to solve problems, you know, and it could be a whole different kind of problem that you run into at work or at home with one of your friends. Or and then the other thing I would do is we had these colored popsicle sticks. So whenever they ran a lap, they got a popsicle stick, but they also would come in and say, Mrs. Wilkinson, I used such and such a skill when I went to the store with my mom yesterday. And I go, oh my gosh, what color popsicle stick do you want? And they gave them back to me at the end of the year. It was like Smart and Final, $10 for a bazillion of them. I don't remember, but it was something that they loved, getting these popsicle sticks. They made little pockets out of construction paper to put them in, and they would just get these popsicle sticks because it was a physical, tangible thing. And until kids are at least 11 years old, they're very black and white. They don't have the neural pathways to understand sarcasm. They don't have the neural pathways to understand out of the box thinking. I mean, things are just very concrete for them still. So to give them a tangible, and for special ed, they're all over the place in their maturity. So to give them a tangible object like a popsicle stick, then they can count them and sort the colors and whatever. They loved it because it was an acknowledgement, if that makes sense. So giving kids a purpose for learning. And the other thing is that we forget to do. I mean, as a teacher, I didn't even know to do this, except I did it with my own kids and my own studying, which was giving kids the opportunity to process what they learned. When we give them an opportunity to process what they learned, and it was like this, okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes and we're going to set the timer and you're going to write in your journal what you learned from this thing we've been working on and how you're going to use it in your life. And then after the timer goes off, you're going to share what you learned with a partner. And at the beginning of the school year, I would hear, oh, that's a great idea. I didn't even think of that. And at first a kid would say, you can't use that. That was my idea. And I'd say, oh, you don't want to be a leader? And they'd go, well, what do you mean? I said, that's the definition of a leader, right? People wanting to do what you do because you're doing something cool. I mean, that's what a leader is. And they go, oh, well, you can write that in your journal. I mean, it would just completely flip it. And that was no matter what kindergarten all the way through 6th grade, that was no matter what grade I was teaching. And since then, I've done these things with high school kids with other teachers. Same thing for them, because humans are humans, right? So it's just, and then they would tell, so here's the beauty of these 5 practices. After you've been doing them for a while, even Rosalie teaching 2nd graders, you can put the kids in charge of those 5 practices. You're not doing them anymore. Then it becomes their classroom. It becomes their investment and who they are. So, you know, whoever likes doing physical activity, they come up with a little physical activity you're going to do in the morning. You pick different kids all the time to lead your add a move game or whatever game you want to play. Or like Caitlin already has this book, she can choose a kid to go through the book and pick a game that they're going to play that day or that week or whatever. And you'll find that when they are responsible to do those things outside of class, they'll come up with stuff before they even get into the room. Many of them, not all of them, because, you know, we're all different, but several of them will take it really seriously and go, oh, I'm going to do that. That would be cool. Or they'll see something, they'll see a TikTok or something and go, oh, I'm going to try that. But you get the idea, right? But even little bitty kids like to do that. You know, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd graders of primary grades, even they like to do this, and they take it really, you know, that responsibility is is a real thing. But high schoolers like to do that too. And at first they're like, I don't want to do that or whatever. And you may have somebody who really doesn't want to be in charge of leading a physical thing. And if they, you know, if they don't, the idea isn't to make kids do things, because it's all about social and emotional learning. But when we talk to them about how we're a team, how we do this together, how this is, you know, this is our our community and we're doing these three things, it creates the community, the environment to be able to develop social and emotional quotient.
Love it.
Which,
I took your advice and I chat GPT'd like, what's the purpose? But I did it for teachers and it gave me 10 things. Like, what's the purpose of a teacher? According to chat GPT, educational guidance, mentorship, facilitating learning, personal development for humans, cultural transmission, socialization, assessment and feedback, role models, community building, and preparing for the future. So I stole your idea with chat GPT there. I like that.
hey, steal away.
Sometimes I think we're like, what is our purpose? Dear goodness, what is our purpose? So I love that. Thank you.
But really, when they start using ChatGPT for positive things like that, like what's the purpose for me learning this specific thing? One, it takes the fear out of it, and two, they're using it for something that's not cheating or whatever, because that's a lot of what's getting into the media and that kind of thing. So, and it's not going anywhere. AI is here to stay, so we might as well teach them positive ways to use it, right?
I love that. So for the 5 you were talking about, what were the specific 5 then? They were the
So
exercise?
the first 3 things are to prepare kids' brains for learning.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of exercise, making sure they get a drink of water, and playing little brain games when they come into the room so we can get them out of their limbic system and they can relax and think.
Okay.
So that's purpose. And those first 3 things, I mean, that's prepare. And those are the first 3 things to do to prepare their brains before you even start anything.
Okay.
Then the next thing is giving them purpose. So you brainstorm why you're learning something and how you're going to use it. And you give them rewards for when they do use it. You know, so you give them ideas, they choose something. So now they're learning it for them because they have a reason to learn it. They're not learning it for you anymore. They're learning it for them. And I would be clear with them on this too. The reason we're doing this is because I want you to learn this for you. I want you to figure out why you're going to use this in your life. How does this fit into your life so that it's going to make your life better? Because the whole point of education is to know stuff so you can use it, right?
Love
So
it.
they're tools. So the 4th thing is providing purpose. And the 5th thing is having them process what they learn by writing down in a journal and telling somebody else about it. With special ed, it depends on if they can write in a journal. Like, I don't know what your kids' skills are, but you know, you're a teacher, you've been working with them, you'll modify it so that it works for them. But here's the thing that I didn't know about until I started, and we didn't even know about this research until fairly recently. But if we have an opportunity to process what we learn and then tell somebody about it, it gives whatever we learn sticking power. So you know how you usually have to do things over and over, and there are all these studies, kids have to hear something 25 times until what it does is it creates doing prepare, purpose, process, solidifies what they learn in their mind, and it actually helps the hippocampus file whatever they're learning and keep it more, because they have more clarity. They have so they have a reason to know it attached to the process of, now I've learned this is why, and it gives it sticking power. I mean, I use when I first started doing this, my test scores kicked the guy's butt next door, and he was one of the best teachers in the district. It wasn't me, it was these practices. So he was one of the best teachers in the district. And I can vouch for that because my own daughter had him. He was amazing. And he was up for teacher of the year. And I mean, just an incredible guy. And my scores blew his away. So, and nobody even asked me what they did. They just put a proctor in my classroom the next year because I could not have beat this other teacher, right? And then the next year I got the highest scores in the district. I went from 4th grade to 6th grade, and I had a 5th, 6th split for writing and language arts. And we got the top scores in the district. And I mean, I almost felt like it was cheating.
That's amazing. I love that they assumed you were cheating. Oh, like So, like,
Well, and it was to prove I wasn't cheating, because anybody who knew me knew I wasn't going to cheat on it. So they put and then I got a notice from the superintendent asking me to explain to them what I was doing.
Yeah.
But and then we had to move. I never got to do that. But the point that I'm making, but that's why I'm doing this now. In fact, do you mind if I tell them about the research I'm doing and the
No,
pilot?
I would love if you do that. And I know that we're running short close to 8:10. So if anyone has to jump off, we totally get it. Trish, keep going. Trish, I'm also going to put my email in the chat. Anyone here that would like your book, if they email me that they would like it, I would love to buy them a copy as a thank you for being here and a way to support you, Trish. So while you talk about your research that you're getting into, Trish, feel free, guys, to get my email address. Just say, hey, Phil, I want a copy of Trish's book, and I'll get your address and send it to you. But go ahead, Trish.
That would be amazing. Thanks,
So
Phil.
sweet.
My pleasure.
So because it is great for learning gaps too, figuring out what kids don't know and how to fill them in with a game and do fun stuff and fill that in. Because I know there's still a lot of kids who are missing stuff after the pandemic and whatnot. Anyway, so if you are interested in being part of my research pilot, what I want to do is be able to collect data. I just did a TEDx on these 5 practices, and I really want data to show, and it's data like not holding you accountable, but what I would do is walk you through how to do the 5 steps that we just talked about in our classroom, optimal ways, and then troubleshoot for you instead of, one size fits all. Because I find that when workshops come to schools, everybody does a workshop and they may do one thing after but what the difference is I want to actually work with teachers to help them implement it so they feel like they have support, and then just keep track of your progress. And you're going to want to keep track of your progress, because I will tell you, it makes teaching so much more fun. And the kids like coming to school again, like the absenteeism isn't, and they learn to talk to you more kindly because they're in a completely different kind of community space. It's their safe community space. And so, like Caitlin was saying, Guy, the adults in my life at home, they're not like this. And my guess is that's probably true, because that's emotional quotient. And a lot of people, we're not training people how to notice their emotions and how to manage them in a positive way and how to recognize emotions in other people and have empathy. I mean, we're not doing that. Or we haven't been. Now schools are starting to do that, which is very exciting. But if you would like to be part of my sort of pilot research program to collect data, I'll give you more information on that later, but let Phil know and he'll connect us, because I'm going to start with a group of teachers kind of from all over the place. And if you know of a school, I will even fly out the first school. I will even fly out, not charge them. I will do it all in exchange for data, which means filling out a quick Google form once a week to track your progress and what's going on. And then optional weekly Zoom meetings, kind of like this, where you say, okay, this is working for me. This isn't working for me. This is what I'm finding here. That's what I'm finding there. And oh my gosh, this is awesome. Because you will find positive things like that too.
I love
Trish,
that.
I think this sounds fascinating. I'm really excited. So I'll email Phil and he'll link us up. I would love to do it.
Okay, I would love to have you. That sounds really fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trish, I'll send it out not only to the group and those who couldn't make it tonight, but to my email list once I kind of figure out a little more how to word it with you, to say, hey, reach out to Trish if interested, and she can get you further info. But Trish, I know that time's ticking as well, but I'm here and happy to stay along. But anybody who does need to head out, I know that there's different time zones and different things going on. Trish, thank you so much for sharing these 5 points. I think I did a lot of selfish personal reflection of like, am I doing that in the classroom at all? And am I doing any of this in my life or with my
That's
children?
not selfish, because you're doing this because you're a dad and you're a teacher. You have a lot of kids in your life. So that's not selfish at all. The whole idea is we're supposed to be supporting each other and lifting each other up. The whole idea is to raise the consciousness.
Love it.
right? And it seems so simple to just give kids a purpose for learning. Why are we learning this? How are we going to use it? Why is it mine instead of yours? It seems like when I say it, doesn't it seem really obvious? Like, how come I didn't think of that? And I thought the same thing with my kids. How come I didn't think of that? And then when I was just like, oh my gosh, I could do this with my class. It was amazing. But it seems like something that, how come I didn't know this in the first place? We just don't know what we don't know. And I just kind of tripped into it. I mean, it's not because I'm so wonderful or perfect or, any of that.
Hey
Believe me.
guys, when we know better, we do better. So we're figuring it all out. We're human beings. I'm gonna dip out. I have 2 kids to put to bed. This is so exciting, guys. It was really great to see you. And Trish, I'm really excited. I want to make it my APPR project for next year. So we all have to choose a project and work on it all year long. It would be fantastic. I'd love to do it.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And would it be okay for more than one teacher in your school to do that for their
I think my
APPR?
entire grade level would be down to do it, but I could spread the word and get you a bunch of people.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Rosalie, that would be amazing. Thank you
Yay.
so much.
All right, guys, listen.
Oh, that's
have
going
a
to be so
great
fun.
night.
Okay,
All right.
you got to get
See
to
you
those
later.
kids.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Trish, thank you again. I'm going to hang around. Anybody who has to go, feel free to jump off. But Elliot and Caitlin, thanks so much for joining in too. If you guys need anything, I'm here too. And Trish is sticking in just in case. But otherwise, Trish, thank you so much. This was so uplifting.
And well, I knew it would be if I was hanging out with you. You and I have such a similar, idea on what we're doing, right?
Love it. I love it. Yeah, the feeling's mutual. I'm glad we crossed paths. But Caitlin, I hope your summer's going well and
Yeah,
that
it
you
is.
How long have you been off?
I've been off since my first day of break was May 23rd. So we get out early, but we go back early. So I'm already looking at the calendar, watching the weeks approach.
no.
I know.
So you should do this with me too.
Yeah. Well, actually, like one thing I had a thought as a parent, a question, I guess, for you, since you
Okay.
went through navigating some things with your